as we have been introduced today, we're going to talk about teachers' well-being and happiness. We're going to speak about professional burnout and different techniques or things which you could do, how to cope with this. Right? Just a few words about me. So right now, I'm an online English teacher. I used to work offline, but right now I'm organizing all my professional activities to work remotely from any part of the world. As I'm a globetrotter and I love traveling, it allows me to travel all around the world and still work and get some income. Secondly, I'm a teacher trainer. I organize some conferences like SkyTeach. I organized SkyTeach last year. I also organize Trendy English. I present occasionally on different topics connected to teacherpreneurship, learner, teacher autonomy, teaching with technologies, teaching online. Here, I also organize some online courses for English tutors, freelancers, and teacherpreneurs. And right now, I'm the author of the blog Pro Freelance for Teachers in Vkontakte. This is just some background information about me. So probably, I think it's more than enough. But beside that, I also do a variety of projects about consulting, mentoring, and so on and so forth. But today's webinar, I will share my experience because I have unfortunately, I have been burnt out a couple of times, and I will share my stories, what happened and why, so with a reflection of the reasons and possible things which I did. Secondly, I would give you some maybe schematic, yeah, I would say like some scheme, some background on professional burnout, and then we'd speak a bit about the action plan. That is how you can either prevent professional burnout or cope with it. My suggestion to you is to leave all your questions and answers to the end of the talk. But if something like, if some question pops up relatively and relevant to what I'm talking right now, please leave comments or leave your questions, and I'll try to answer them on the floor while I'm presenting the topic. Okay? We will have actually 80 minutes, which means I plan to speak for about 65-70 minutes and then leave 10-15 minutes for your questions. So if you agree with this, could you give me high five if you agree with my plan? That is, I'm talking your questions at the end of the session, and then when I ask you a question, yes, okay, 5. Right, very nice. Yeah, I have told you some words about myself. Why don't you tell me some words about yourself? I mean, so I have seen some people wrote that they are just from different cities. So what is your background? Are you a university teacher, a school teacher, a private tutor? So can you describe your situation like in 1-2 words? Their profession and the city where you're from. We'll see how trendy English is spread all around Russia, or not even Russia, but probably internationally. Novosibirsk. Hello, Novosibirsk. Private tutor from Novosibirsk. Okay, Novosibirsk, university teacher and private tutor. Okay. I mean, so it will help me to focus on the right things. Tutor, ex-teacher, secondary school teacher, teacher trainer, right? St. Petersburg, Moscow, University, Murmansk. Yes, Tatiana was from Murmansk. Okay, so basically we have St. Petersburg, Moscow, Murmansk, Novosibirsk, Moscow region, and probably some more cities. Volgograd. Okay, good. So practically all of you just are private tutors or just some kind of teacher, which means that I think we're very vulnerable as teachers for professional burnout because for several reasons. We'll discuss it in the second part of my presentation, but for now, I just want to tell you to share three of my stories, which I would say, which caused me to think a lot about my well-being, because a healthy teacher means um, happy students and happy teacher. I think we as teachers very often forget about ourselves. We think so much about our students, about their results, about our work, about how to work our work better, about our professional education, professional development. But how many of you have got me time? That is the time which you devote only to yourself. Could you please write how much me time you have a week and what do you usually do? By me time, I mean, sir, this is the time which belongs only to you. For example, right now I have around 10 hours of me time a week. Um, just for some reason. Mhm. Um, do you have me time as a concept? Like when you spend this time only with yourself? No friends, probably no other people, no family, but this is your time. Mm-hmm. Yoga, dog walking. Wow, excellent. Mm-hmm. Too much. Okay, right. But mhm, little me time. We're going to look how you can do it more actually. So my first story is actually it's not the first story, it's just the beginning. So that is professional burnout is when you're emotionally and mentally and physically exhausted, which means you have no energy, probably you have no desire or something like this, and you cannot do a thing, or probably you're on the verge of, I don't know, breakdown. It's not even burnout, but breakdown. So I remember the first time when I remember my first time, it was, gosh, sorry, it was in 2010, and I was working as an English teacher. So my schedule was pretty good. I worked three times full time, that is from morning till evening, and I also have some occasional private clients. But uh, at this very moment, actually, I was working for a school and I had to work with children of 5 and 6 years old. I think this was the most terrible experience I have ever had teaching English. I mean, nothing personal, don't get me wrong, sir. The children are fine, but I just don't like working with children, especially with 5, 6. I mean, I'm fine with school children, like 7 or 8, but not 4, 5, 6. And I was pushed to take these kids, and I had been working with them for about 3 or 4 months. And at some point, after some lesson observation, my teacher trainer came to me and my manager came to me and said, you know, you can't work with these children, and I think you're doing this very badly. You know, I was so much upset and demotivated by this. I mean, it was I had been talking about it since September, that is for 4 months, and I didn't get any support from my manager. In this case, I was so much demotivated, and I didn't want to go to work, even though I did like my adult groups and my teenagers. Um, what I did was I left my job because I understood that I couldn't bear it any longer. I was a great teacher and I was nominated as the best inspirational teacher, as a teacher like as a new teacher of the year, something like this. But working with kids was not my strong point, and it took, how would I say, just it irritated me so much that I started not to want to go to work. That's why leaving the job was the only option which I could see at that time. And I actually never regretted, because after I left my job, I could actually allow myself to take a trip to Italy, and I took some time off. When I was on holidays, I realized that I didn't want to work as a teacher anymore, and I decided to try another job, completely opposite type of job. So it was real estate agent. I got some education in this, like it was 2 or 3 months education, and I started working as a real estate agent. At the same time, I read a couple of great books about goal setting, finances, financial freedom and strategy. I read Rich Dad and Poor Dad, 7 Steps to Motive Action, Robin Sharma, and some others. As a result of, firstly, getting some rest, secondly, trying out another completely different profession, which I didn't like at all, as it turned out. But this switching to something else and a lot of rest actually helped me to realize that I love my job, but I don't like working with very young learners and with kids under 7. What did it mean for me? It meant that I started to make some restrictions with which people I want to work and with which people I didn't want to work. Actually, I sat down and I wrote, okay, my students, so adults, teenagers, exam classes for either adults or teenagers. And I realized that I don't want to teach one-to-one lessons to kids, and I don't want to work in any form with children under 7. And I think these were the solutions which I had, which helped me to overcome my professional burnout and still stay in this field, which I'm very happy actually. But yes, and a very important point that after trying out as a real estate agent, I realized that I don't want to work for any company. I want to work for my own. I registered myself as a small business, and I started to look for clients. I started to understand some basics of tax authority, finances, marketing, finding new clients, making contracts with corporate clients, and so on and so forth. So basically, during the next 3 years, I was pretty busy doing different stuff connected not only to methodology, but to developing my business mindset. But at some point in 2013, when I was a self-employed English teacher who worked only with students whom I liked, I had to work around 55 academic hours. That's a huge amount of time. Basically, I worked too much. I also was studying about I was studying in a business school, and I was doing my Delta. And I remember that this time was like hell. I had work overload. I really needed money because I was studying in a business school. I bought a flat. My fat client left me. That is, I had around 20 hours with this client, which meant that basically 1/3 of my income was just, I had to just was no longer there for me. And I felt really, really stressed because I didn't know what to do. I was physically and mentally exhausted. I didn't have any energy. And actually, I was wondering, like, actually, I wasn't wondering, I was thinking that I do not want to do anything else at all. And at this very point, I also decided to do something. So, what do you think I could do in that situation? Like when I was working like 55 hours a week, when I was studying in my business school, and when I was doing Delta. Any ideas what I could do in that situation? Webinars. Okay, probably. At that time, I wasn't that daring, probably. I didn't do that. I mean, the webinars. To find balance. Sure. Good quality time. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. So basically, yes, I was trying I guess that was the first time when I was started thinking about the balance. And I took a rest, a very good rest. I started a new hobby and I started to exercise regularly because I realized that I actually had so much mental work and so little physical exercises. Even though I moved a lot from client to client, I still didn't do sports regularly. Thus, I started windsurfing and I started exercises. I started running and I then started a new project. Firstly, English and windsurfing camp and some speaking clubs for my learners. I was lucky enough because I was studying in a business school and we spoke quite a lot about business development and so on and so forth. And I met great people. And that was the first time when uh, when I tried to write my personal strategy and planning. This was the time when I first uh, thought about planning, not like, oh, I'm here and I want, for example, to buy a car, I want to buy a flat. I started to have a systematic approach to my life. That is life as a whole. It's not only work, or it's not like, I mean, it's not about my work or it's not about my job. I mean, not work and not about my friends and not about sport as separate concepts. But this is one whole thing. And I have to balance and juggle all the different spheres, and I have to learn how to do this. And also, as I was a freelancer for 3 years already, I had some ups and downs with finances. I mean, I went through some hard times because being a freelancer is not very easy. And at that very time, I learned about personal finances. That is, I started to track my finances. I started to think how much I earn, how much I spend, how much I can save the money. And it was a great boost and the start of a lovely journey to where I'm now. And if you look at where I'm now in comparison to where I was, um, these are two different people and these are two different stories because now I do not have to work 55 hours or 60 hours. I work as much as I need. I have my approach to financing and to the right set of skills which allow me to live the life I really want. But even though just, I have become more experienced and more, I've learned how to balance the life. At some point, actually, I realized that, and it was really recently, in December 2017, when I was working, I was actually I was a freelancer, but then I was head hunted and I became a top manager. As the work was completely new for me, I had to work pretty much 55 or 65 working hours. I came to work at 7 and left at 9. Sometimes I didn't have like proper meals and so on and so forth. Um, Actually, I loved my job. I loved what I was doing because I had very interesting and challenging tasks. But at the same time, I had so much work and I didn't get really appreciation for what I was doing. There was too much information and too many tasks and too many people who wanted to talk with me because I was one of the few professionals who were competent to solve this or that question. That it led to my physical and mental exhaustion. My gray hair, that was the first time when I saw gray hair, even though I'm 33. And I guess that was the starting point of my, how to say, my awareness that something is not working. Um, what I did actually was I left the company, even though I was well paid and the tasks were very interesting. I took 6 weeks off. That is, I didn't work at all. What I was doing is I was sleeping, I was swimming in the ocean, I was commuting with different people, communicating with different people. I was reading. I went to the massage because my body was so, how to say, it was so mm, um, in a very bad shape that I couldn't even like go walk properly and do any exercises. I read some motivational books, which actually helped me to, not to get motivated, but to admire the people who do great things. And I'd say, it hooked me and gave the idea for what I want to do in my future. And also, I spent on the 6th week, I wrote my personal strategy. That is, I realized that being a top manager is not really my cup of tea. And again, I returned to the idea that the only way I could work probably is freelancing and doing different projects. And this awareness helped me to write a new personal strategy and really define what I want. As a result, after 6 weeks, I felt rested and energetic and have new goals. If you look at these three stories, basically they have some very common things. That is, some of them, yeah, actually, even though I liked my job, or some, yeah, I still burnt out, and I'm asking sometimes myself whether I could have prevented this professional burnout. And I guess the answer is no, because I wasn't just aware about, I wasn't aware of it. I mean, it's so easily seen from different people, like when you see some people working so much and then you tell them, well, you're on the verge of professional burning out, or you're on the verge of breaking down. And then it was so difficult for me to admit and realize that I was burnt out myself. um, I don't know how the things are with you. Do you feel when you're on the edge of burnout? Could you write yes if you feel it in advance? Or could you write no if you mostly, yeah, if you mostly don't notice and then have to react to this? Wow. Okay, 50-50. And with the people who also have no. Well, the majority of you could feel that you're on the verge of burning out. Okay, so then my question to you is, how do you feel that you're on the verge of burning out? So what are the symptoms of professional burning out? How do you understand, and what helps you to understand that soon you'll just, that soon it will come? Depressed and tired. Agree. Anything else? Irritated and aggressive. Okay, some kind of blocking and no new ideas. Okay, uninspired, to not want to go to work. Okay, mm-hmm. Hate children. Okay, uninspired too. Okay, so previous materials seem not to work anymore. Aggressive and overtired. Right. So I would say, and I would agree with you, that it's about feeling tired all the time. It's about being exhausted. And it's not only physically when you just cannot wake up and cannot walk, but it's also mentally when you're probably aggressive or irritated. I think it's also, as for me, it also connected to bad sleep and insomnia. When I cannot sleep and something is buzzing my mind, but I cannot actually understand what it is. Sometimes I'm not aware, or I'm aware that something is not working and I'm on the way to professional burnout, but I cannot do a thing, and I start, I just start probably thinking what is going wrong and so on and so forth. I think it's also about emotions, as you have said, irritation, anger, impatience, and probably you even don't want to wake up and go to work. No matter whether you work with children or adults, you just don't want to go to work. Um, what do you think are most common reasons for professional burnout? Probably you have got your own experience, or uh, you have got three stories from me. So, what do you think are the reasons for professional burnout? Knowing the reason actually could be the first step to become aware about it. Underpay, a very good term, a very good point. That was one of the no, actually, yeah, I forgot to say, but in 2010, it was also this reason, right? Too many working hours. Mm-hmm. Okay, that is, you spend too much time on preparation, idea exhaustion, lack of professional development. A very good point. Wrong people. Mm-hmm. Too much work and too many responsibilities. Okay. I'm wondering if you would get all of my points. No help and no assistance. Okay. And probably even no communication when you work as as a freelancer or a private tutor. So you do not have these professional surroundings. Multitasking, no acknowledgement and no recognition from the head teacher. Okay, right. So when I was thinking about it, uh, I actually divided all of the reasons into three main categories. And basically, you have mentioned all of them except the idea about the underpay. I forgot to, yeah, I forgot to include it. So the first thing is work-related issues. Working too many hours, lack of recognition and reward. When you work a lot, or when you work well but you do not hear a good word about it, or even when you do not get the feedback on what you're doing with, and you don't know whether you're doing it right or doing it wrong. Sometimes we have the same or monotonous work. For example, you are always working with elementary students. You know the work from inside out, but at the same time, this is, I mean, the pretty same work. So it's pretty same topics, and we kind of get bored and get demotivated. Sometimes when I'm freelancer, it could be deadlines and pressure, or for example, for school teachers or just teachers, it could be also pressure, like writing a curriculum, writing some extracurriculum classes, class programs, and so on and so forth. And what is letter T here? Just no visible results, I guess. At least this was also related to me. Sometimes when you work with students or when you work with teachers, you do not understand whether you work effectively or not, especially when you do not get any feedback on your work, either from students or from teachers or the administration. Sometimes you think that you do not progress and you do not do something right, and you do not get this, reward or recognition, or even you do not see the results. For example, you have been teaching, yes, or when you have a negative feedback. That's right. Um, no visible results, maybe this could be as a different thing. I mean, the negative feedback, I think could be another point, because when no visible results, you just don't know. Maybe you're working well, but you just do not see the results. And in this case, you should define yourself. How would you measure? So what would be the metrics of success? For example, if you're teaching the group, so how would you understand that you're working pretty well? But having a negative feedback is a different thing, because always working in a negative environment or negative feedback, both from your learners and from your administration, yeah, could be demotivating. Oh, I see. Sorry. Okay, I'm speaking here from the teacher's perspective, but okay. So sometimes when the students have negative results, it could be demotivating as well. But I'm not sure that it could lead to professional burnout, on probably only if you have quite a lot of them. I don't know. For example, um, this year I had a student and I taught him for 2 months. And so when we were doing the tests, so we were getting ready for again, when we were doing the test, or he got like 55, 59, but he went to the exam and he got 40 points for his OGE. I have never had such bad results in my life. And the very first moment when I heard it was disappointment. Actually, it was disappointment not in the learner, but disappointment in myself as a professional. And I really understood that, okay, one more thing that I don't want to work with, that is preparing children for school exams, because there are too many stress factors. It didn't lead to my professional burnout, but this is a very good case about the negative feedback. That is when your student get the negative result. And what happened for me was I completely took the whole responsibility for myself, saying that, okay, sorry, this is my fault, this is my responsibility. But in fact, a learning process is always a two-side road. That is, if you so it's not only your professionalism or something like this, but also the students and I mean the trainees' responsibility, and this is like 50-50 responsibility. And then I spent some time thinking and reflecting about the situation, and I say, okay, good. This is what happened. I cannot change anything, and I don't want this negative result influence my well-being and my physical and emotional state. So I acknowledge my failure, and then I'm moving forward. The only difference would be that I decided that I don't want to work with these type of with these type of students. And this could be treated as a kind of a weakness or lack of desire to work and become a better teacher, possibly. But I always know to I always know what I want and what I like doing. And if I don't like doing something, or if I see some negative results, or if I'm not satisfied with something, I always have to do something. Either learn how to work with this or leave it for somebody else. And in that particular situation, I made a decision just to leave it as it is and go further, probably to focus on something which is more interesting, or I don't know. So I don't know why I told you the story, but this just seems to be a proper example about the negative feedback. The second thing, which I think is very important, is your personality. All teachers are perfectionists, and we cannot do a thing badly. If your student fails, if my student fails, this is my fault. If my student do not study well, this is my fault. And every time we actually add all of these faults, we take the responsibility for everything which is happening, and we want everything to do so perfectly well that we spend so much time planning, we spend so much time improving ourselves that we forget about ourselves. I mean, there are only 24 hours a week, sorry, not a week, a day, and we always try to be perfect. This is not a bad sign, but sometimes it actually adds up to your low esteem and low self-esteem and to the amount of hours you work. For example, you're preparing for an exam. So you want to create the best materials and so on and so forth. And you spend 2 hours of preparing the materials, just editing the Word file and making it perfect. Why? You might have spent just probably 1 hour on preparing the materials and draw the outline of the lesson, or to find proper materials and give the task for a learner to create or to design the tasks, especially if you work in groups. But you're a perfectionist and you want to be everything perfect. That's why you spend hours, and then when something doesn't work, you just get disappointed and you start blaming yourself. I think all of these two things, like being a perfectionist, which leads to low self-esteem when something is not working, as well as some, you know, expectations from you as a teacher or from your social status, could lead to professional burnout. I was the same, and for example, I couldn't start many things, but a couple of years ago, I guess 2013 or maybe the beginning of the 14th year, I realized that it blocks and stops me from doing the things which I want. I have never done conferences. Oh, you don't know, so how will you do this? You know, I just start doing this and I learned by practice. You don't know how to do, for example, online courses or how to write posts. Okay, this is not a perfect post, but this is a post and I'm learning. I think the shift in mindset, rather than being perfect, from being a perfectionist to being a learner, is what could lead, what could prevent this professional burning out. Because there are many, how to say, there are many things which you can also try, and where you could, which you could try, which could be interesting, and um, uh, which could give you the chance to experiment, to try something new, and maybe develop yourself, not how to say, develop you not to become like you're a perfect teacher or you're a great teacher, and probably using your skills to try something else and to do something different. For example, materials planning, teacher training, I don't know, some games for learners. Yeah, and probably one more thing which is connected to your personality is desire to control everything. We are used to controlling our learners. We are used to probably total control of our life. And when we cannot control something, for example, your learners do not do your homework and you cannot influence it. So step by step, or just bit by bit, it adds up to your tiredness of your job, or the lack of results, or I don't know what it adds on, but what it adds up to. But yeah, this is also one of the reasons. That's why to avoid it, think about be a person with a growth mindset and learn from what you're doing rather than being perfect. And secondly, probably here the point is try not to control everything. So control what you can control and give control, or allow other people to control whatever they can. So not, you cannot control some of the things, so just let them be, and follow with the flow, I'd say. And probably the last reason is your lifestyle. As we work too much and get ready for a lot of lessons, we basically forget about work-life balance. We often work too much because we are underpaid and we have to work more to earn enough for all our wishes and desires. Sometimes, for example, at some point when I became a freelancer, I realized that I had been working quite a lot because I had to learn quite a lot. But at some point, I realized that I'm living in vacuum. The only people whom I have in my life is students, friends, yes, friends and family, okay? But I didn't have any professional connections. And that's how I started to organize conferences and became a teacher trainer and started doing my Delta stuff, Delta adventure. But I think it's very important. I mean, these reasons, like your lifestyle, could be your lifestyle could be a reason to your professional burning out. When you don't have the balance, when you work too much and sleep very little because you have a lot of papers to check or to write another lesson plan um, indi mm, to personalize your lessons, for example, for each learner. Sometimes teachers do not have friends and close people because they are working too much and during the rest of the time they could only sleep and get some rest and they don't want to do anything. um, okay, so I have summarized them into 3 points: work related issues, lifestyle, and personal traits. Is there anything else which I forgot here? Mhm. So if I have forgotten something, right, or if you agree with everything. Balance is the most important thing. That's true. And this is what we're gonna talk partly about. Okay? So, um, well, understanding the reason is the first step to recovery if you are on the verge of burning out. And this is what can help, and on the other hand, this is what can help you to be aware of what you should be afraid of, I'd say, or which you should avoid not to have professional burnout. And yeah, now some tips what I do, sometimes successfully, sometimes not that successfully, but what I'm trying to do in my life for being healthy, and I would say healthy and wealthy. Okay. The very first thing which I should tell you is about proactive and reactive measures. The thing is that, for example, in my 3 stories, I wasn't proactive. That is, I didn't take any measures apart from the last case where I was more aware and I was thinking a lot, but yeah, there were some different reasons. Yeah, I didn't take any proactive measures. That is, I only reacted to the situations. When I realized that I'm on the verge of burning out, or when I was too tired and stressed, I reacted. That is, I took some rest, I left my job, I started reading some things, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, during like between the second and the third points, or just burning out, I realized and I started to do some proactive things. Uh, okay, let's just speak a bit. So, which reactive things you could do when you're burning out, actually? Which things you do if you have burning out? Sleep, right? Anything else? Rest, sport. Is the schedule go somewhere? Okay, like traveling or just maybe local or just some travel. Speak, work, and draw. Countryside. Okay, traveling, right. So this is about the reaction that is so when you feel completely tired, exhausted, you do these things. What measures? Yeah, Feeling depressed. Good, we'll get back to it. I think this is a very important point, Natalia. Thank you for bringing this in. And what about proactive? That is, what measures you could do to avoid professional burnout? Watching a film, okay? What can you do to avoid professional burnout? Talk to colleagues, a very nice point. Okay, to the theater, cinema. Plan carefully. A good point. Reconsider my priorities. Right. Okay. Let's have a look. Planning. Reading about it. Yeah, so that is becoming aware, minimizing the loads and reschedule. Okay. Yeah. The very first step, if you think that you are here burnt out, I guess, is admit that you're on the edge of burnout or you already have a burnout. Because sometimes, for example, like me, I say, no, it's not about me. I'm just tired. No, that's not about me. I love my job. No, you have to admit that you have a burnout. You have to admit that you're on the verge of burnout because it would help you to start taking measures. If you haven't admitted this, it means you do, if you haven't admitted the problem, it means you do not have any problem, which means you do not say that, oh, no, I don't have a burnout. Everything is fine. I'm just a bit tired. No, admit about your burnout. Secondly, you have to identify your stress factors and respond to them. That is, why? So why are you so exhausted? Why is something not working? For example, at some point I realized that the stress factor for me were 5-year-old kids and lack of support from my manager and like very negative feedback on my work, even like generalizing and not fair feedback on what I was doing in general rather than connected to a particular group. And what did I do? I responded, I left my job. Yes, Tatiana, it's like saying no to things that irritate you. For example, sometimes when you get some negative feedback from your learners, or for example, you have the learners which you don't like, why don't you say no to these learners? This is what I do. I mean, I told no to 5-year-old students. Then I realized that I do not want to work with the with people who are always complaining, and I don't want to work with people who are not responsible. Now I have only responsible students. I have very interesting students. I have mostly adults with the exception of some teens and no kids now. So I identify the stress factors, and so firstly, I responded to them in that situation, and later on, I am aware that these are stress factors for me and I don't want to have them in my life, which means I have kind of a feedback, kind of a checklist, what I do or with whom I work, with whom I don't work. It really helps me to get pleasure from my work and love my work because I work only with the people whom I like. I teach only what I like. That is, I don't like EAP, for example, English for academic purposes, or I don't really like, just some general English courses. I'd rather focus on some short-term goals, for example, on speaking, developing speaking skills, or exam preparation. And doing what I like really helps me a lot to enjoy my work. Gosh. The next point is to get some rest or sleep, as you say, and switch to something else. For example, theater, cinema, go to the countryside, to the nature. And the last point is about pacing and balancing yourself. That is, as somebody of you has mentioned, plan. Firstly, when something happened, So you identify the stress factors, you reacted to them, you've rested a bit, and then you try to be aware of what is happening and to observe yourself. That is, track what you do, how you feel, that is being aware, being mindful and responsible for what is happening in your life. So this is actually about the reactive plan. Would you agree with what I'm saying, or did I miss some steps which should be there? Could you put one if you agree with everything, and could you put two and maybe write some comment? What else is missing here, or maybe I've forgotten to forgotten to probably insert something. Okay, all right, good, good. Rather complete. Mm, what do you mean rather complete? Like complete what, Tatiana? Get some rest and switch to something else? Complete your action plan. Ah, okay, I'm sorry. I thought just rather complete. I thought it just about something. Okay, all right. Yaroslav, why did you put number 3? Do you want to add anything? Some of the ideas or some of the points? While Yaroslav is. Ah, okay, sorry, just a mistake. Okay, all right. But being like reacting to some situation is not desirable, but this is what happen. This is what often happens. That's why, the very first thing is that do not be afraid. Do not be ashamed that this has happened. Rather than admit it, identify the stress factors, speak to people probably, sometimes to a psychologist, sometimes to your colleagues, get some rest, and then make sure you have the balance in your life. That is probably with some ups and downs, but still you are aware that this is what's happening in your life, and this is what you do. But at the same time, once recovering after the burnout, or to prevent any burnout, is there are several things which I do, for example, and I'm going to share. So firstly, you need to plan your life and me time. Many of you have written that, have texted in the chat that you have got me time, and this is very different. Well, for me, that wasn't pretty obvious. I mean, yes, on the paper, everything is perfect. I mean, on the paper, I have got my goals in all spheres of life. On the paper, I have got this and this, and my life is super happy. I have got, like, I want to have a lot of free time, and so on and so forth. But in practice, it didn't work sometimes. Sometimes it is still not working for some reasons. And what helps me a lot is planning. I have got several tools. So firstly, I have got my personal strategy. That is the strategy for the next 5, 3, and 1 year. That is, I draw a picture of what the world will be like in 5 years' time. Then I ask myself what I want, what skills and assets and competencies I will need to have in 3-year time. And then I make an action plan for 1 year. That is, what do I need to do to gain these competencies and assets and develop the qualities to be where I want in 5 years' time. Sometimes this picture changes a bit, but on the whole, this is some kind of a vision. This is some kind of a star which leads me. When it changes, I just say, okay, plans have changed. For example, I have met the person, or I have split up with the person, or something like this, and the plans have changed. But planning, I guess, is very important because it helps you to structure your life, and it helps you to avoid professional burning out. The tool which I have and use for every month, though, I mean, personal strategy is a big document for 1 year, just for 1, 3, and 5 year time. But what I do every month is so-called Wheel of Life. Every month. So this is an example. Basically, instead, I will tell you what I have or something. Yeah, I think I don't have physical environment. I have something like I don't remember. I have something different there. It is connect like bright life or something like this, where this is the time when I, about traveling, reading some books or something like this. So what does this tool do and how does it help me to avoid professional burning out? We understand that life is only one sector, like not life, but professional life is only one sector in this life, and we have got so many more things to do. And if you do not plan these things, they will not happen. For example, I'm an early bird. Every morning I wake up at 5, but practically every afternoon I need 15-20 minutes for a daily nap. I'm serious. Sometimes I sleep in metro. Sometimes when I sleep, for example, uh, I'm trying to sleep in my house if it's possible. When I don't get sleep, I'm too tired, for example, by the end of the day. So basically, I plan my daily nap there. I plan the time for my lessons. I plan the time for my lesson planning. I plan the time for my professional development. And this will actually helps you a lot to evaluate how balanced your life is. For example, your business and career, how you could use it. You evaluate each sphere from 1 to 10. For example, your business and career is 5. For example, your finances is, let us say, 7. Your health is 10. You do a lot of sport and something like this. For example, your family and friends is 10. Your romance is maybe 0 or 1. Then, for example, personal growth, maybe you're too busy, maybe 1 or 2, and so on and so forth. And then you connect these points here and see, is your life balanced or not? If it is not, you could set and plan some things which you could do to improve the sectors. Again, I think the sector about finances here is important because very often we overwork just because of financial issues, because we are either underpaid or we want to get some rest, but we, for example, do not have enough money or something like this. This could be a good tool for you to define where you are now, where you would like to be, and what you want to focus on. And every time when I, for example, plan my month or week, I check whether I am going into the right direction. For example, if my work is 10 points and if my health is 10 points, but my, for example, romance and my finances are not that good, and every time when I plan the tasks for the next month, I ask myself, am I on the right way? Am I working on improving finances and my romance situation to feel better, to spend more time on myself, to have more me time, uh, so that I could not only be working but still enjoying the job. Still, you see, yes, somebody's somebody's working too much today. Is enjoying the life. It really helps me a lot because I plan, for example, here theater, cinemas. I plan my travelings. I plan some sports, some trainings, reading a book. Everything is planned here. I think me time is also here in fun and recreation, as well as personal growth, probably, as well as in family time. Yeah, something very different when you are, how would I say? when you're equally developed in different aspects of your life. Um, can you put one if you agree that it could help you to prevent professional burnout? Put one if agree, put two if you disagree. Okay, 1.5 if you are not sure yet. Okay, all right. So this is the very first thing. The second thing is definitely do what you love. Um, I understand that everybody loves teaching, but what I see very often is that, for example, when we need money or when we work for a company or when we work as freelancers, we sometimes have to do what we really don't like, which means it causes us stress, and in a long run, it could lead to a professional burnout and sometimes to a breakdown, to your nervous breakdown. That's why it's very important to do what you love. By this, I mean, firstly, do you like teaching? What kind of students do you like teaching? What kind of classes do you like teaching? How much time do you like working? I mean, for somebody, 30 hours is fine. For somebody, it's like 10 or 15 hours maximum a week. So by doing what you love, I mean classes, students, probably activities, probably the number of hours. And once you have gathered this together, you would get the picture of what you love. And this is not only about your job. I mean, in your job, you have to define this, but this is also about other spheres of your life. As I told you, for example, you have to do what you love in your career, the same thing in health. For example, if you push yourself to go to the gym 3 times a week and you don't really like it, you would feel stressed. That's why if you find what you like, for example, rollerblading or swimming, maybe some meditation or yoga or dances, it could help you to enjoy life more and to again and to feel and not to feel stressed. That's why think what you love, what students, what classes, what hours or what time do you like work to at. Uh, think about it. Would you? Mhm. Do you know? Okay, so let's just have a small poll. So, do you work and do you do only with what you love now? Put one if yes, put two if so, that is, you have both what you like and sometimes don't like, and put three if you do now what you don't like. Okay, I see quite a few 2 points. That is when you do sometimes what you love and sometimes what you don't love. That's why write out what you don't love and think what you could do with this. I mean, probably you could next year, probably you could say, oh, sorry, is there any opportunity I may not work with, for example, elementary students? For example, it was in 2008, I realized that my English was, getting elementary because I had been working only with beginners and elementary and kids. And I asked for high levels, and they gave me high levels. That's why do not, so if you write out what you don't love and then think what you could do with this, either find a compromise or maybe delegate it to something. For example, I don't like cleaning, so actually I invite a lady who cleans my flat. Or for example, oh, there are some things which I don't like, but I have to do them because it's just routine. So think what you can do with this, either you yourself, or how can you say no, or how can you delegate it, or to whom you could delegate it. And definitely think, if you don't know yet what you love or whom you like teaching or something like this, think how you could change it, maybe bits by bits, but change it so to get more, so that you could get more pleasure from your life, from your job, because you will love people with whom you work, you love what you teach, and you love where and when you teach. Okay? That's why it would be your homework to write out a list of what you love and what you don't love, and think what you could do with the things which you don't love. Anything would do. Don't be perfectionist. You maybe at the very beginning you would have some points. Good. Change some points and maybe get back to this exercise a bit later. Maybe in a month, or maybe in a semester or something like this. But do not be afraid. To find the solution to the problem, you have to admit that you have a problem, or that you have a burnout, or that you have some things which you don't love. And this is okay. The question is what you do with this information. Okay? Good. The next point, which came to my mind. So uh, I'm sharing my experience. That's why there would be some more points. A very obvious thing, but you have to get regular rest and you have to plan it. I mean, when we have got classes, we need to have breaks between classes when it's possible. We have to get some time for maybe a day or 2 days, like between the lessons if we work really hard. We have to get enough sleep. So these are very obvious things, but this is what we often forget doing. For example, if you're working on some project or preparing some learners for the exam, or maybe writing some materials, and you do not sleep for some time, like I don't know, probably just when I organize a conference, I may not sleep I may sleep like 3, 4 hours every night for a week, but then I get this rest. I go on a travel, I sleep more, I take some days off. That's why when you plan your time, you have to get some regular rest. That is, when do you have rest? And you have to plan what you will do on this rest. I mean, sometimes you may just leave this space like doing nothing. Good. I, for example, have 1 hour of doing nothing. At this time, I can surf the internet, I can watch some YouTube, I can read a book, I can do anything. But I'm resting and nobody is disturbing me. And this is planned. Sometimes, when, for example, some lessons are cancelled, or when I, for example, finish the meeting earlier, I have this time and I get the rest. So I do not push myself to do something else. I tell myself, okay, you have finished earlier, or the student has canceled and you have got 1 hour, 2 hours of rest. What would you do? And maybe this spontaneous rest could be also something what you love doing. Maybe working, maybe going to a nice restaurant, or calling your friends, reading a nice book, anything. But it would help you a lot to switch from to it would help you a lot to feel to recharge your batteries. um, Maybe one technique which helps me a lot is, I call it like 5 minute rest. When I have some classes very close with a 10 or 15 minutes break, what I do is I just sit, close my eyes. Sometimes I switch on very nice music, and I do not meditate because I can't. Some people can meditate during this time, but I just sit with closed eyes, listen, and breathe. And after 5 minutes, I'm recharged. I've recharged my batteries. Um, that's why do not forget to have regular rests during the day and during the week. I mean, especially. Could you please write if you have if you do not work at the weekend? Okay, no. So I think sometimes it's not fair to ask tutors whether, okay, can you put one if you plan your regular rest and if you always get it, and two, if you occasionally forget about rest and work too much, and three, when you don't have regular rest and when you don't plan it. One, you have it, you plan it and have it. Two, plan and have it, but occasionally. And three, when you don't plan it and sometimes don't get it. Okay. Again, the number. So some people who plan and do everything as they planned, excellent. So the people who have got two and three, please start planning. Maybe just do not plan that much. Maybe 15, 20 minutes. But this is completely rest without the telephone, with something what you really love doing. Okay? Good. I have 3 or 4 more points, which again could seem pretty obvious, but once you start to dig deeper and analyze what is happening in this sphere in your life, you could actually say, yeah, yeah. Okay, what helps a lot is, of course, physical activities. So this could be some dances. Somebody said she walks with her, she takes her dog for a walk and walks in the park, or running, or doing yoga, everything. For example, me personally, I have got a rule because previously I have gained 17 kilos because I had been working online, and I had pretty much work and I didn't move a lot. What I have now is I've got an app which shows me how many steps I make every day. And my target is 12,000 of steps every day, which is around 10 kilometers. That is, every day I walk 10 kilometers. Why? When I walk, my brain actually gets some rest. This is point one. Point two, when I walk in the park, my brain breathes fresh oxygen, which is very important because you have to, apart from your body, you have to think about your brain. That's why. Think about the physical activity which you love doing and do it also on a regular basis. Do not forget about yourself. What is very close with these physical activities is massage. That is everything which is connected. For example, as a preventative measure, for example, I usually have massage twice a year. Firstly, it helps me to feel better because I don't know. I believe in the connection between your physical state and your mind state. And for example, when there are too many thoughts, or when something is buzzing me, or I can't find some solution and I'm stuck, I usually maybe take 1 or 2 massages, or maybe some, I don't know, bathhouse or something else, just through physical body, just get the pleasure from physical body and get it mentally. But again, this should be done mm, proactively. That is not when you have something hurt or just when something is aching, rather than do something in advance. Start doing physical activities regularly, probably not right now, but after 90 minutes, I think I would just, stand up and do some push-ups, maybe plank, and go for a walk. Okay, so could you write what you do for physical activities? If you do anything. If you do nothing, you may say not yet, because it would sound more optimistic. Nothing yet, Anastasia. So yet is the key word. Morning exercises, running, gym. Okay. Flamenco, dances, wow, gardening arena, nice. Body work, thigh massage every Saturday. Okay, so you see, all of you are doing very, very different things. Even gardening could be considered a physical activity. That's why find what you love and do these activities on a regular basis. So basically, you will have pretty many homeworks thinking about different things. But I guess it could be the very first steps to prevent professional burnout and enjoy more what you want to do. So the next point, which is very, I think, very connected, very important now, is digital detox. That is when you switch off completely telephone, social networks, laptops, or whatever, and you enjoy the quietness of your life. Um, like when you're not connected to your telephone and nobody can call you and say, you have a job tomorrow, you have some urgent task or something like this. I think this private issue is important and we often forget about it. Sometimes for example, in the past, I tend, now there is such an abbreviation, it's called FOMO sapiens. It's like fear of missing out. That is when people are afraid that something is, they will miss something and the world will crash and the apocalypse is come if they haven't answered the call immediately or if they haven't answered the message immediately. But it actually creates more mental overload, and you have to work with this as well. I sometimes switch on for several hours when I can. Sometimes I switch off completely everything for a day or two and go to the park or traveling. When I travel, I hardly ever, I mean, apart from the moments when I need to add a selfie or send a selfie to my mom in the evening, or for example to my friends, or make a post. I, for example, always switch off my telephone when I travel. Think about it. Who has got digital detox at least once a week? When you switch it off, when you switch off your telephone and all the social media or something for at least half a day. Me, very good, Tatiana. Anastasia, again, not me yet. Okay, think about this point. Okay, and probably the last point which I wanted to mention was work on your self-esteem. Again, this is very closely connected to the point, like to one of the reasons, which means like personality traits. When being a perfectionist, you think that, okay, I don't know how, I don't know how to plan, I don't know, or I'm not good enough, or something like this. I mean, so many thoughts, so many ideas are buzzing our mind that we have to work with them, and you have to be confident in yourself. I'm always giving an example with the butterfly who is beautiful and a caterpillar who is also beautiful. And a caterpillar doesn't need to be a butterfly because when the time comes, the caterpillar will become a butterfly. But at this particular moment, they are both beautiful, which means you yourself is you yourself yourselves, as there are many here, you yourselves are professionals. You yourselves are worth, I don't know, are worth me time. No, you deserve me time. Um, you are good for what you do. You do what you love, and so on and so forth. And that's why you do have some reasons to be proud of yourself. Are you proud of yourself? And if not, I think it's high time to start being proud of yourself, because if you're not, you would get stressed that you do not meet somebody's expectations, or that you do not, or that you are not good enough for something, and it would cause a lot of stress, which, believe me, will lead to a professional burning out, and not only professional burning out, it will lead us to a burnout in general. That's why think about yourself and be proud of yourself. I'm sure you have some reasons to be proud. Again, you may write out some things to be proud. When I feel that I'm worth nothing and, you know, I'm the worst person or just the worst teacher or something like this, for example, how I felt with my student who got 40 points like for his OGE. I just sit down, breathe in, breathe out, And I write the points I'm thankful for me. For what? What have I achieved? What shall I be proud of in myself? And these points helps me a lot because I realize that I have something to be proud of myself, and I do what I love, and this is important because I'm, how would I put it in words? Like, I'm not sure that it would show all the range of emotions which I use in Russian, but actually in Russia I say предприниматель своей жизни, sorry, an entrepreneur of your own life. And I think this starts with being self-confident and knowing what you love and doing what you love. That's why to avoid and to enjoy to enjoy your work better and your life more. Think about it. Think and become responsible for your own lives and become entrepreneurs of your own life. Would you agree with my last point? That it's important to be, it's important to work on your self-esteem and be proud of yourself because definitely you have to. Good. I'm very happy that you all agree with this. Now, the question is whether you are proud of yourself or not. Let's keep it in private. But again, it could be one more task for you to do. What am I proud of myself? What I shall be proud of myself? And don't forget, and don't be shy to share it with other people. That is, you're professional, so just say, yes, I think I can do this and that because I know I have experienced it. All right, so basically we are pretty short of time, but I guess so I keep a special notebook, nice. Um, I think we have some time for a Q&A session, maybe a few questions if you have any. So Masha, could you help me if there has been any questions? So, do you have any questions related to a professional burning out? One very important thing here, I guess, could be also like I mentioned it to do what you love, but it could mean that you can do a couple of things at the same time. For example, you can teach at school, you could write materials, for example, you could organize trainings, you could organize conferences, you could organize online courses, whatever. That is, you can run a couple of projects at the same time. And in this way, for example, this diversification can help you to switch from one activity to another, not to get bored, and definitely to develop yourself, to develop you professionally and personally. For example, now I'm running completely different projects like conference and online courses and some bit of online teaching. And I realized that I'm so much enjoying because this is new, this is exciting, and this is what I uh, what I what I love doing. Okay. Yeah. So basically, you may watch some time management seminar or a very great book is, I mean, the book about this Wheel of Life where I read it. Um, it's called Extremальный time management. Parabellum, sorry. Uh, mm, um, I'm not sure that I have written the names correctly, but this is a very nice book. I mean, it describes the concept very well, and this is pretty inspiring. And yeah, I'm gonna write a post about time management for freelancers. I guess this time on Friday in my group. So if you are not in the if you haven't subscribed yet, so you may subscribe like pro freelance for teachers, and there, yeah, we will discuss time management tools. For example, I'm using Trello, I'm using Google Calendar, and I'm using a special notebook, which is called ежедневник успеть все, also by Mraczkowski and Portabellum. So they have got pretty good structure, how I can plan the day. Then I reflect about the results of the day, the results of the week, the results of the month, and the results of the year. So basically, this allows me to be rather consistent. But this is more like planning tool, tactical planning thing when you do things. But for my personal strategy, I use something different. Okay, any more questions? All right. Yeah. Yeah, so basically, I am also now organizing a summer school for freelancers. So some of you probably are freelancers, some of you are not. And if you decide to join, you may use the promo code Trendy English Summit. I think it's important to write them with the same capital letters, and you will get a 10% discount. Yes, I think the slides will be sent to you later, I guess. And yeah, here are my contacts again. Let's keep in touch. Yeah, so you may add me either on Facebook or contact, or we may communicate in this blog about freelancing. And see you soon, I hope. Can you put just some reaction like 5 if it was very useful, 3 if you get some ideas but still you have some hesitation, and 1 if all the information was not very useful and yeah, you just wasted some time. Oh, you're so generous. Thank you very much. So if you don't have any more questions, I guess that will be all for me. And now I'm giving the floor to Masha again. So thank you very much. Thank you for your participation and thank you for your fair answers. You have got your homework to do some things, to think what you love doing, to see what you don't love doing but you're still doing now, and think what you can do, and start doing some physical activity. You've promised me, so I'm keeping an eye on you. Bye bye. See you later.